we can grow to the highest. So let's see an example of this, Chevra, within the Parsha of Vaeschanan itself. Let's turn to the Parsha and see what it has to share with us. The Parsha begins in chapter 3, in verse 23, when it says, Moshe Rabbeinu says, Vaeschanan el Hashem bo'es hahi lemor. And I besought the Lord at that time, saying, I prayed to God. And if you look at verse 25, what did Moshe ask Hashem? Ebra nav eres haaretz hatova. Please, let me go over and see the good land. The one thing that Moshe Rabbeinu wanted so badly was to come within the borders of Eretz HaKodesh, and here we are, Gavalt, how we should appreciate where we sit and where we stand, where we live, where we work. It's the one thing Moshe Rabbeinu was denied. He wants to enter into Eretz Yisrael. And the Sifri, Rashi, in Vaeschanan, in 3-24, cites this Sifri, and for a greater elaboration, check out Rashi in Parshas Pinchas that we've had recently, in 27-12, also cites the Sifri, which basically says that Hayamoshe Omer, Shema, Batel also haneder shelo yikanes la'aretz. He said Moshe Rabbeinu thought maybe Hashem nullified, maybe God nullified that vow, that divine decree that said I am not allowed to enter into the land. Moshe Rabbeinu thought, well, maybe, just maybe, Hashem tore up that divine decree, and maybe Hashem is going to let me enter into. Moshe thought at one time, you know what? Maybe I think I'm going to make it. I think I'm going to get inside of Eretz Yisrael. And the reason why says in the Sefer Parashas Derachim in Drush Ches, the opening words V'derech Hagav, he cites the Mahari that explains the Sifri, that explains the reason why Moshe thought he would be allowed to enter the very place that God forbade him to enter into. Why did Moshe think it's now suddenly okay to enter into the land? It's because Moshe Rabbeinu thought that the Aver HaYarden, the Transjordan, he thought that Aver HaYarden had the status of Eretz Yisrael Mamash, that it had the actual status of what we call today Israel proper. Moshe thought that the Transjordan had the same status of Eretz Yisrael, that Moshe Rabbeinu already entered Aver HaYarden. You know that Moshe already entered the Transjordan. Moshe was there. He's buried on Mount Nebo, right? You can see this from my window where I live now. I live in a place called Mitzpeh Nebo. Mitzpeh overlooking Nebo. What's Nebo? It's the name of a mountain that Moshe, somewhere on that mountain, Moshe is buried. Because you look out my window, you can see what we call Jordan, Amman. That's the Transjordan. That's the tribes of Reuben and Gad and half tribe of Manasseh. It's right there. Moshe Rabbeinu made it to Aver HaYarden. Because Moshe made it, and because Moshe thought that Aver HaYarden had the status of Eretz Yisrael, he thought, well, if I came this far, if I entered into this piece of Eretz Yisrael, well, I guess we have a concept that neder shebatel miktaso batel kulo. The vow that's been nullified partially, I guess you can rip the entire thing up. If I made it this far, Moshe thought, if I made it into this chelik of Eretz Yisrael, well, why can't I continue into the other parts of Eretz Yisrael to see the other portions of inheritance that the other tribes are going to divide amongst us? That's what he said, the Mahari says. Why did Moshe think that he was now allowed to enter in? Because after all, look, I've come this far. Hashem allowed me into Aver HaYarden. Aver HaYarden thought was like Eretz Yisrael, and therefore if I came this far, well, certainly I can just continue. However, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, answered Moshe and told him, sorry Moshe, you made a mistake. Because Aver HaYarden has the status of Chutz La'aretz, Mamish. The Transjordan is just like any other place out there in the diaspora. It's just like New Jersey. There's no difference between the Aver HaYarden and any other place out there. And therefore Moshe, Hashem said, you have not made it into a piece of Eretz Yisrael. Therefore we have not partially nullified the divine decree, and we will not rip up the rest of the thing, because you have not begun you have not entered into the land Parsha, and you will not continue or enter Bechlal into Eretz. And that's what the dialogue that was going on at the time was really all about. Now, the Chidah in his Sefer Rosh David, he says that this matter about the Ever Hayarden, the Transjordan. Whether it's got the status of Eretz Yisrael or Chutz La'aretz is really, he says, depends on a plukta de Tanoi. It depends on a dispute amongst the Tanoic sages. Says the Chida, according to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Eber HaYarden has the status of Eretz Yisrael Mamash. It's Mamish Eretz Yisrael. However, according to a different Tanoic sage, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, he maintains the Eber HaYarden is just like good old Chutz La'aretz, like any other place out there in the diaspora. Moshe Rabbeinu thought the halacha was like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that the Eber HaYarden is mamish like Eretz Yisrael, and therefore, because Moshe thought like the Rashbi, and I came this far, well, I came to this chelik of Eretz Yisrael, what stops me from the rest of Eretz? I guess already the divine thing must be written, so I might as well continue. But Hakadosh Baruch Hu paskin like Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, that the Eber HaYarden has no status whatsoever of Eretz Yisrael, and therefore Hashem informed Moshe, made a mistake. Eber HaYarden is zilch nothing, has no kedusha of Eretz Yisrael. You haven't begun. You will not continue because you haven't entered the land. We have not ripped up half the decree. We won't rip up any of it. And that was the dialogue that took place. All this information brings us to question number 3, which is, how could it be that Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't privy of the position of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, who maintains that the Transjordan is just like New Jersey? I mean, at Har Sinai, Hashem revealed to Moshe Rabbeinu every opinion, every viewpoint, every Tanoic sage, every Amoraic sage, all their viewpoints, all their shitos. How could it be that Moshe seemed to have missed the boat? This was hidden from Moshe Rabbeinu. He didn't even know the opinion existed, and if he did, what? He thought the halacha was like the Rashbi? Wouldn't he have been told that Har Sinai, that although there's a machlokas, this is the halacha? The halacha is like Rabbi said. How could it be that Moshe, this one just slipped him right by? How could it be that Moshe missed the boat and wasn't privy of the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, and that the halacha was indeed like him? Comes along the Gira, yes?
How come the Rashbi paskins his way if he heard that Moshe, or if he heard that Hashem?
Excellent question, and we're going to address this as we move on. Just watch how what we say is going to take care of this very question. Bezrat Hashem. Comes along the Gira de Pilpuli, and he addresses the answer to this third question. Are you ready for this, Chavra? Here we go.
What's the comment?
The Gina de Pilpuli. He says like this, Gavat. He says, inside every one of us is contained the DNA of all of our descendants. We carry around inside of us all this potential. Inside every person, think about it, when you trace any person's ancestry, go all the way back, genealogy, all those people that stemmed from a person, all those, in other words, you can find all that. So it stems from, you can somewhere find every descendant over the generations, all are found somewhere in that original person's DNA. Each person carries within them a certain DNA, not just physically, but spiritually as well. Every descendant over all generations of time can all be traced back into that beginning person. That means, each one of us has this thing going on within. Now, most of us don't see this when we speak to others. When I look at you, I just see you. I don't see all the people that will, Be'ez Hashem, stem from you. Although, for the most part, we don't see this. Tzaddikim, righteous people with them holy eyes, can actually see all the descendants that are destined to come out of each and every one of us. For example, there is a case in point in Parshat Shemos, chapter 2, verse 12. Moshe Rabbeinu comes out of the royal palace, and he finds an Egyptian soldier beating up on a Jew. Moshe comes to the rescue of one of his brothers, and it says, Vayifin ko v'ko. He turns hither and thither. Those aren't two characters. It means he turns here and there. Vayar, the verse says, Vayar, and he saw, ki ein ish, that there was no man. What does that mean? He said there was no man? Well, he looked around. Nobody's watching. Kapow! He gives the Egyptian a blow, The Egyptian dies, and Moshe buries him in the sand. However, Rashi cites the Midrash that has an alternative and even deeper understanding of these words. The Midrash is found in Yalkut Shimoni in Remez Kuf Samach, Zayin number 167. There, when it says Vayar ki ein ish, Moshe saw that there was no man. So the Midrash that Rashi cites, Shein ish asid lot seis mimenu. Moshe saw that there was no kosher person that was going to descend from this Egyptian. Moshe looked into the Egyptian, and he looked into his soul, and he looked into all the generations that would stem from this man, and he saw not one good person come from this Egyptian in the future. Had there been even one good person, Moshe maybe would have said, you know what, I'll stop him a different way, because for the sake of that tzaddik or whatever. But because not one good person would ever come from the Egyptian, Moshe said, this planet would be better off without this person and his kind. Moshe destroyed that person, because you see from here, Moshe Rabbeinu was able to look at a person and not just see the person, but could see their DNA. This, not just the physical, but the spiritual DNA can see into the future, can see into the soul, and see all the descendants to the end of time. Moshe saw nothing good, and then he kind of felt sanctioned from above. I can now protect this Jew by getting rid of this Egypt without causing any negative effect on preventing a tzaddik in the future from coming to the world. So just like we find over there, so it was by Har Sinai. At Mount Sinai, 600,000, that's the number that's given, 600,000 of us Jews stood at Mount Sinai. Now, who were contained in all those Shishim Rivo, who was contained? All their descendants, all the DNA in all those 600,000 were contained inside those very people standing around the mountain. Moshe Rabbeinu, when he went on top of that mountain, and Moshe Rabbeinu was taught the entire Torah, and Hashem taught Moshe every possible opinion, that every Tanoic sage, Amoraic sage, every Gaon, every Rishon, every Am, until the end of time. How did Hashem show this to him? Hashem said, Moshe, look down at the bottom of that mountain. Take a look. What do you see standing around there? All the Jews, right? Moshe, look carefully. Look into those Jews. And as Moshe's holy eyes, Moshe looked into the Jews, and he began to see their descendants. He saw, this is how Moshe became privy of all the opinions and positions of all the Tanoic sages and all the Amorai, because he saw those Tanoim. He saw the Amoraim and all the Rishon. He saw Rashi, he saw everybody. He saw them, mamish. He looked into their souls, the spiritual DNA, and he read them like a book. He saw this is the way Hashem taught Moshe every possible shita of every chidushei Torah, all the Torah Navalei that was ever yet to come. Moshe saw it through the Jewish people. The Jews are like God's Sefer Torah, right? 600,000 letters we've got. So Moshe read them like a book. We are the Sefer Torah. And Moshe saw from the Jews, he saw about all their descendants and all the Torah that they would creatively think of within the framework of Torah and Halacha. He saw all that. And now once we've established that is the way Hashem revealed it to Moshe, there is a fascinating Gemara found in Sanhedrin on 92b. The Gemara there is expounding on a fascinating story that takes place in the book of Ezekiel. It's talking there about the famous Tchias HaMesim, the resurrection of Yecheskel Hanavi, Ezekiel the prophet. It's found in chapter 37 in the book of Ezekiel. Read it yourselves, beautiful homework. See the whole story. Ezekiel goes to this place, and he's told by, okay, go ahead, resurrect all those dry bones, and he goes into detail how, the sinews and the veins and the flesh, it grew, these people rose from the dead. An incredible story in the 37th chapter of Yecheskel Hanavi resurrects those. So the Gemara is expounding on that story. The Gemara in Sanhedrin on 92b says, Mesim Shehechi Yecheskel, those dead bodies that Yecheskel the prophet resurrected, whatever became of them, says the Gemara, Alu Eretz Yisrael, they moved to Eretz Yisrael. You hear this? They made Aliyah. That implies that the resurrection happened in Chutz La'aretz. Okay? Yecheskel, somewhere outside the land, resurrected these people. Says the Gemara, they all made aliyah, they moved to Eretz Yisrael, v'nasu nashim, they got married to women, v'holidu banim uvanos, and they begot children. You hear this? The people, they just lived out their lives. They came to Eretz Yisrael, and they built families. Says the Gemara, Amad Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, this Tanoic sage, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira stood up, al raglav, on his feet, v'omar, and he said, Ani mi b'neihem, I am a descendant of those people that Yecheskel Hanavi resurrected. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, this Tanoic sage that we mentioned before, he said, I am a descendant of those people. And then in his hand, he held something. He said, V'halalu tefillin sheiniach li avi mehem. And these are the phylacteries of tefillin that my father gave to me as an inheritance from those very Jews, from those very people that Yecheskel resurrected. Here, I got, when they got, they were alive. They moved to Eretz Yisrael. They got themselves pairs of tefillin. Well, check it out. This pair that I've got right here, I inherited from those original people that were. I got the hand-me-down tefillin of those. So the Gemara says, the Gemara asks, Uman ninhu mesim shehechi Yecheskel, and just who were those people that Yecheskel Hanavi resurrected? Who were those people anyway? Omar Rav. Rav said, Elu b'nei Ephraim shemanu lekates v'ta'u v'hargum anshe gas. They were from the tribe of Ephraim, who were in Mitzrayim. And they made a calculation when they thought the Exodus was supposed to take place. But they were also off in their calculations, and they thought the time of their redemption was at hand, and they didn't wait for the rest of the Jews. They picked up themselves, like half the tribe of Ephraim, picked themselves up. They left Mitzrayim before the appointed time. Before they made it to Eretz Yisrael, the people of Gat, these people got to them, okay, they got, and wiped them out. They were destroyed by the people of Gat, and those were the people, they're in Chutz La'aretz, in the Midbar somewhere there, that Yecheskel went to, resurrected. They are from Bnei Ephraim, the tribe of Ephraim. They were the people that were resurrected and brought back into Eretz Yisrael. It comes out from this, that the ancestors of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, right, they never stood at Mount Sinai. Because half the tribe of Ephraim left Mitzrayim before the appointed time. They got wiped out. So they weren't there at Yetzias Mitzrayim, and certainly they weren't there by Kabbalah Satzara. They were wiped out. They were just corpses all over, right? They weren't there. And it's interesting. It's Derech Hagav that the tribe of Menashe, it's like Chetzi Shevet. Menashe is divided in half the tribe in Ever HaYarden, half the tribe in Eretz Yisrael. Here we find Menashe's brother Ephraim again in half the tribe dies in Chutz La'aretz, half the tribe makes it into Eretz. I'm not sure what to do with this right now. I just, it's interesting about Ephraim. They themselves are like two halves of Yosef. Yosef splits in half, and each half splits in half. It's interesting, something's going on. I'm not quite sure what it is yet, but something, just so I throw it out there. Interesting, Shevet Menashe, half in Chutz, half in. Ephraim, half dead, half alive. But it comes out, if Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira was a descendant of that half tribe of Ephraim that didn't make it into Eretz Yisrael, that means that those people, his ancestors, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira's ancestors, did not leave with the rest of the Jews. They weren't in Hars, and therefore, Chevra, we've just answered the third question. The third question was, Moshe Rabbeinu, how could you not know the position of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira that maintains Chutz La'aretz, Ever HaYarden, is just like New Jersey? What about every sheet that was shown to you? But says the Gita de Pilpuli, how were these approaches shown to Moshe Rabbeinu? Hashem said, look down there at the foot of the mountain. Look at all the Jews. Look at their souls. See into the future. See every descendant. Read the souls like a book and see every Chidushei Torah, every novelty they're going to come up with. Moshe Rabbeinu looked at everyone, but half the tribe of Ephraim wasn't there. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't see that half of Shevet Ephraim, and therefore he didn't see into their souls, and therefore he didn't see Rabbi and he didn't see that. That's why that opinion was hidden from him. The only shita he saw was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He sees the Rashbi holds Ever HaYarden is Mamash Eretz Yisrael. It's the only shita that he knows of, and therefore if there's no one arguing, I guess that's the halacha. Moshe enters into Ever HaYarden. He's thinking the Rashbi, who didn't come from that half Shevet of Ephraim, from whatever Shevet he came from right now, by the way, he did, and therefore he saw that shita. There's no one arguing. It must be I entered into Eretz Yisrael, and if I got this far, well, if I've already ripped up half of the divine decree, the rest goes down the drain. I think I can enter the rest. And Hashem said, sorry, Moshe, you made a mistake. There's some information you aren't aware of. Half tribe of Ephraim didn't make it to Har Sinai. There are people you haven't looked into, and from their descendants is going to be Rabbi Abba, who's going to hold that Ever HaYarden is mamash like Chutz La'aretz, and therefore you haven't entered into Eretz Yisrael partially. You will not continue. You will not enter Bechlal into, and that was the dialogue, and that's what we understand, and what was going between Moshe Rabbeinu and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it's interesting. After, so yes.
Then how can we say that Moshe got the entire Torah?
We don't say that he, right? That I guess you see from here that there's an aspect of Torah that Moshe became aware of later in his life. And Har Sinai,
he didn't get the Torah.
According to this, that is correct. According to this, there's a piece that, and there's more to discuss about this, about the Rashbi himself. I'm not going to get involved right now in all the Gilgulim with the Rashbi and Moshe. There is a lot of discussion there that the Rashbi gave to us Torah Snister, right? Hidden Torah. Did Moshe give that? So it's a whole discussion that Moshe came down again and gave us Torah. It's a greater discussion. Very good. You pointed it out. But yeah, according to this, also another source that we see, at Har Sinai, it wasn't over. It was a great beginning and a vast majority, but there were still some things that happened a little later on as things unfolded in history. It's interesting. So I'd like to suggest over here, on top of what we just saw, okay? Understanding now the dispute between Moshe and Hashem, the Rashbi, and this other Tana, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, I'd like to suggest, let's go back to those tribes of Reuven and Gad, and the half-tribe of Menashe. They wanted the Ever HaYarden. For this, we just kind of dip back into the portion of Matos. There's a whole chapter dedicated in chapter 32. Let's turn to verse 1. It says there, Umikner Rav Haya Livnei Reuven v'Livnei Gad. A great multitude of cattle were to the children of Reuven and to the children of Gad. That's what it says. And because they had lots of cattle, wherever they got the cattle from, maybe they got it from the wars in Sihon and Og, but because of that, they saw the Transjordan and what pastures, lush, what great grazing ground for their cattle. They asked Moshe, we'd like our portion there in Ever HaYarden. That is the pashtos, the simplistic reading of the Torah, because the grazing grounds for their cattle, they don't want Eretz Yisrael, they want now the Transjordan. Although that's the pashtus, you got to be kidding here. There's got to be something more to it than that, because think about what they just gave up. They just gave up a piece of the promised lands for what? For grass. What a trade-off. For grass! Because they wanted grass, okay? In every meaning of the word. They wanted grass. They gave up Eretz Yisrael for grass? You got to be kidding. How could they? They didn't appreciate what Eretz Yisrael was. So there are alternative approaches that share with us the deeper side. What did they really want? What were they thinking, these tribes? There's a famous approach from the Shalah, and he says as follows. Says the Shalah that, you see, what was really going on was, these tribes really wanted to stay behind with their Rebbe Moshe Rabbeinu. They knew Moshe Rabbeinu is going to die in Ever HaYarden, and they were so loyal to their Rebbe, they said, something, if our Rebbe stays behind, then we stay behind. We are not moving. That's how connected they were to their Rebbe. They appreciated so much the Rebbe Moshe Rabbeinu, not just in life, but even in death do us part. We are not going to leave Moshe Rabbeinu. If he stays behind, even in death, then we're going to hang out right. That's how much they were into. They give up. They had such a connection. Not only did they connect with Moshe to such, they would not forsake Moshe Rabbeinu, not even in death. They had a plan. Their plan was, they loved their Rebbe so much. What's the one thing our Rebbe wants? More than anything, he wants Eretz Yisrael. Well, watch this, the master plan. If we ask for the Eber HaYarden, if we ask for this to be our portion, if God okays this, then we just turned Eber HaYarden, so they thought, into Eretz Yisrael. Wow. Like Rebbe, like Talmud, just like their Rebbe thought, like the Rashbi, that Eber HaYarden has the status of Eretz Yisrael. They thought, if we could be given this piece of land, it becomes one of the tribal inheritances, we can turn this place into Eretz Yisrael, and then guess what? Too late now, Moshe's here. Retroactively, Moshe, he tasted the taste that it was imbued with Kedusha. He had Eretz Yisrael, and he was buried. Give up all his. It's the least we can do for our Rebbe. He's done so much for us. It was all part of the mess. Says the Shalom. How do we know? That was their intention, that they were so connected to their Rebbe. They did everything for their Rebbe. They were willing to give up. Yeah, they if anyone, they appreciate Eretz Yisrael. But to be with our Rebbe, they were willing to give it up. Where do you find in Scripture? It's right there in Parshas Matos. The one that we read before in 32-1. What does it say? Umikne Rav Haya, that they had a great multitude of cattle. Says the Shalah. Those words. Say it again slowly. Umikne Rav. The word mikne means they made a kinyan Rav on their Rebbe. They made they acquired. You know what they acquired, these people? They really made it. Not just Asay L'Charav, Knei L'Chaver, Knei L'Charav. Like they made such an acquisition on their Rebbe. They were so connected. We will never leave our Rebbe. You hear? We don't leave him behind. We don't walk away from our Rebbe. Even to be, mamish in his vicinity. And not only that, to be able to give him back something. He's given us so much. Hopefully, that, says the Shalah, is what they intended to do. Now we can appreciate. It wasn't just for grass. That was on the outside of the story. But on the inside, give out what they were willing to give up for, mamish for there. And now even though Hashem paskined against these tribes, and I'm sorry, Eber HaYarden does not have the status of Eretz Yisrael. You can get Eber HaYarden, you can stay with your Rebbe, but it still has status of Chutz La'aretz. Nevertheless, I like to suggest over here, that this is only the halacha. The Hashem paskins, like Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseir, is only the halacha b'zman hazeh. It's only the law the way it is today. Because, I'd like to suggest, Be'ez Hashem, la'asid love in the future, we are going to paskin like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that Eber HaYarden has a full status of Eretz Yisrael proper. Just like we find by another famous debate between the Shammai and the Hillel. We know that today, for the most part, we paskin like Hillel. But in the future, we all know we're going to paskin like Shammai. And the source, or at least one source for this, is the Tosos Chadashim on Ethics of Our Fathers 1-1. He cites the Av Bezdin of Nicholsburg that says, we only paskin like Hillel now. Hillel is the easier one. We can handle Hillel today, but Shammai is always much tougher, much more strict, and we'll only be able to handle Shammai in the future. I'd like to suggest the very same thing here, that we go like Rebbe the Bezeira now because he's easier. Like the Rashbi, we will do in the future because he's harder. Where do we find an example that the Rashbi has a higher level of existence? I think we could turn to the Gemara in Brachos on 35b. The Gemara there says, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai maintains, what's his position? Toraso umnaso. You know how you should live life? Torah is your craft. Torah is your preoccupation. In other words, according to the Rashbi, a Jew should spend 24/7 in the study of Torah. What about Parnasa? Money will come. Hashem will send it by this way or by that way, but you should be involved in Torah 24/7. However, Rabbi Yishmael says no. Torah in Derech Eretz. A person should lead life where there are times to learn the Torah, but Derech Eretz, you got to have a job, you got to have a parnasa, livelihood, you got to do both. So the Gemara says Abaye, Harbe asu Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai velo also biyadon. Many people tried it out the Rashbi way, but they did not succeed. How do you just learn Torah all day? What about parnasa? What do you eat? Right? So many people, they just had to, abandon, wave the white flag. They couldn't succeed. However, he says, Harbe also the Rebbe Yishmael, many like Rebbe Yishmael, but also be done, and they were able to succeed. That much we can handle. So the point is, we see from this Gemara, the Rashbi has a very high standard of existence. The Rashbi says, wow, it's Torah or bust. That's it. That's it, 24/7. The Rashbi's level is a very hard thing to find. Therefore, today, for the most part, I guess the halacha has been decided like Rebbe Yishmael, because since the beginning of time, since most Jews over the ages went with Torah and Derech Eretz. Most Jews have worked and studied the Torah. A very small number of Jews over the ages were able to dedicate their lives to complete study. That's not the norm. It's not the majority. It's only a small minority has been able to pull this off at best. But I guess you see the halacha for us, Bizman Hazeh, is like Rebbe Yishmael. However, I'd like to suggest that in the future, the halacha is going to be like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. In other words, it's going to be 24/7 the study of it. And why is that so? Because why do we have malacha today? Why do we work today? It is because, look at the story right after creation. In the book of Genesis, in chapter 3, verses 17 through 19, how did it happen that we have to go to work to make a living? It's because there was something called sin. Adam and Eve chose to engage in a mistake, a sinful mistake, by partaking from the forbidden fruit. Because of that sin, what did God do? Hashem cursed them. In the curses, what did God say? By the sweat of your brow, you're going to have to eat bread. In other words, from now on, you're going to have to work for your food. You hear this? What's the formula? Chet brought about klala, which brought about melacha. Sin brought the curses. Curses brought out work. The work ethic is a curse. That we have to go to work is a curse, because before that time there was no chet, there was no klala, there was no need for melacha. Everything grew on trees. When chevra la'asid lavo, in the future, when Mashiach comes and we bring the world full circle, we remove chet from our existence. Well, once we remove sin, then all curse will just be lifted off of us. And when there's no klala, there will be no need to do malacha. We go right back to paradise when everything will grow on trees. That's the Gemara. Says Rabbi Yishmael, by the way. There it's found in Shabbos on 30b. There it says, everything's going to grow on trees ready-made. Cakes, ready-made. Entenmann's, Chalav Yisrael, just for the picking. It's right there. No need to harvest and, the plowing and the seed, the sowing and the irrigating and the harvest. None of that stuff and, sifting and all that stuff. Nothing, everything, Mom. That's what the world's going to go back. So therefore, in the future, Gavat, of course, we're going to do like the Rashbi, because the Rashbi says, the Rashbi's living like Mamash and Gan Eden all the time, and that's the way. So therefore, Chevra, it's just a bit of a proof that, in the future, we are going to do it like the Rashbi, which means to say, Gavalt in the future, Memela, in the future, we will also paskin like the Rashbi, that Ever Hayarde will have the status of Eretz Yisrael. And therefore, we could suggest to say that when in the future, we finally give Ever Hayarde the status of Eretz Yisrael proper, it could be Lamafreya, retroactively, and it comes out retroactively, Moshe did enter the land. And Moshe was buried in the land. At the end, Eva Yarden will indeed be a piece of Eretz Yisrael Amiti, a real full-fledged part and parcel of Eretz HaKodesh. And therefore, from all this, I think we see one lesson. The lesson I think we see from this is never give up hope. Because not only does the bad bring to the good, not only does Abraham Hayardim bring us to the borders of Eretz Yisrael, but it's even more than that. That inside of the bad, the good is hidden. Inside of the Abraham Hayardim, Eretz Yisrael is hidden. It's right there, right now. And although we can't see this right now, right there, the seeds of Eretz Yisrael are right there. It's just a matter of growing. It's a matter of tapping on the outside. It appears to be Abraham Hayardim. It's the Jordan, my God. But no, in there, inside is Mamash Eretz Yisrael, and it comes to teach us, like we said before, in the lowest of places comes the highest of things. And that's, I think, to do with Abraham Hayardim. Yarden are the letters Yered, Nun. Go all the way down to the 50. Nun is numerically 50. A person can go all the way down to the 50th level of impurity. And when you hit rock bottom, there's only one place to go, and that's up. That's Eber HaYarden. Yarden, Yered, Nun. A person, Yorad, Nun. A person go down to the 50th level, go the lowest of the low, and yet from those very places, like you mentioned last time, from the salt sea, from the lowest, there's only one, the lowest place on earth, there's only one place to go, and that's mamish, to go up. And the point is, we can succeed. Not only can we succeed even after falling, it's more than that. We can succeed even more because we fell, because we're touching the greatest of lights inside the deepest of the depths. So, over the next 7 weeks, I bless us all to truly be comforted, no matter where we've made our beds, and never lose hope, even when we go through the darkest of times, because we should realize that we can move forward from the most challenging situations. And moreover, we need to understand that the light of salvation is buried somewhere in those lowest of places, because this knowledge will enable us to always accept Adni, which is God, into our minds, hearts, and lives, and witness the ingathering of all our tribes into the fullness of Eretz Yisrael, and see the building of our third base of Mikdash with the return of our Luchos, the Shivrei Luchos, by the time the upcoming high holidays roll around.
Amen.